r slash unpopular opinions. Most people think the living room should be the room that gets straightened up the most when having people over, but I disagree. I think the bathroom is a bigger deal. I don't really care if your living room is a little messy or has a little bit of junk lying around, but if someone's bathroom just looks or feels filthy, then I'll be disgusted. Think of restaurants where the main eatery part looks relatively nice, but the bathroom just didn't feel clean at all. I feel like that same logic can be applied to homes too. Obviously your living room should still be clean when having people over, but I feel like a slightly messy living room isn't as big as a deal as a dirty bathroom. Communism has killed a lot of people is not a bad argument. It is very easy to point out flaws in a centrally planned system, one of these being how a government can be flawed in allocating resources. You can very easily point to cases such as Mao's Great Leap Forward, which starved millions, as an example of flawed central planning in communism. So the argument that communism has killed a lot of people stands in this aspect. Damn, my vocabulary sucks. I used the word flawed 3 times. BTW, this is just meant as a valid criticism of a centrally planned economy, not necessarily as a support of another system, although I personally would believe a capitalist system with a strong social safety net is better compared to a fully centrally planned economy, but that's a separate thing. Also, just cause something has criticisms does not mean the alternative is better, even though I prefer capitalism. For example, democracy is incredibly slow. This is true. Fascist governments are much quicker to act. Does that mean fascist governments are better? No. Everyone should be forced to work in the food service industry for 3 months at some point in their life. I understand that it's not exactly feasible for every single person to work in the food service industry, nor could you force everyone. But holy fuck, am I sick of the people who have never worked even close to a kitchen or restaurant telling me what it's like to do it. I was a busboy for a year and a server for 4 years after that. I worked as a tow truck driver for 3 years after that. I put my time in taking shit from people for years. I loved being tipped. I took the good with the bad. In my opinion, most people tip what they want to tip regardless of service. Some people vary a little bit with how the service was. Everyone who is not a server or bartender tends to think that our job is the easiest and we just go grab food and bring it out to the person. Not that we could be dealing with 4 to 5 tables at one time. That the kitchen is behind and our food is taking longer, so now our guests get mad at us for doing a bad job. How we just brought your food and now you want a refill. Now we just dropped off your drink and you want a side of ranch. Now we just brought your ranch and your food doesn't taste right, so we have to run back again. All while dealing with other tables. You're upset with us and leave us a 10% tip. Also the people who are cooks and food runners and busboys all throwing servers under the bus like they're perfect. The restaurant industry is a team. If one part messes up, it affects everyone. Sorry, I don't know if this is unpopular or even goes here, but every time I read another tipping post and I read the comments, it makes my blood boil. Too many people have opinions and don't have experience in the matter. If you constantly go on about how every single person you've ever met has hurt you and everyone on earth is a horrible person, you're the problem. Not everyone is a horrible person. I'm not a horrible person. My mother isn't a horrible person. A lot of people, actually, aren't horrible people. I understand getting hurt and abandoned and fucked over by most of the people in your life. It happens. It's the way the world works, and some people really fucking suck. But if everyone abandons you and leaves you and everyone seems to hate you, etc., etc., you're probably the issue here, not everyone else. Sorry. From an early age, I have always disliked the smell of coffee. Despite my dislike of the smell, I tried it a few times when I was 7 or 8 just because my mother could barely function without it and she made coffee constantly, pretty much every morning. I remember spitting it out every time and feeling like I was going to gag. I tried a bunch of times after that, thinking that maybe as I got older I'd get it, but the same thing happened. I'd wince and cringe at the taste after finding the smell disagreeable. So I haven't even tried to drink coffee since I was about 24 or 25. There's just something gross about coffee to me. It seems like it should be sweet and chocolate-y, but it just tastes bitter and dirty to my taste buds. There's just something about the smell of it roasting that turns me off, and it's doubly puzzling that I should have that reaction while so many people around me rhapsodize about coffee as if it's the actual elixir of life. I have never had to rely on caffeine to function. Maybe I'm lucky in that department, or maybe it's that I have a really anxious personality, but I do not require the presence of coffee or any other caffeine-bearing agent in my system in order to wake up in the morning, get to work, put in my 8+ hours, and go home. Yet, to hear others tell the tale, it seems like a significant portion, a majority, of the modern workforce would not be able to do their jobs without the aid of coffee in the morning. I find this very odd, and always have. How come I don't require caffeine just to sit at a desk and do a bunch of dumb bullshit, but 90% of every team I've ever been a part of does? Sometimes I wonder if any of my co-workers have even tried to go a workday without putting this drug into their systems beforehand. Coffee drinking and coffee culture are so hardwired into the modern working day and the modern workforce that there's coffee shops every third block in most major US cities. It's strange to sit at my desk at 9 a.m., operating normally, like I'd be operating at 3 p.m. or 7 p.m., and hearing my co-workers loudly sipping their brown, thick liquid drug, hearing them swallow it and chug it and then go as if they're junkies downing their first bottle of methadone in the morning. I have always found this whole area of the culture very strange. They look dead-eyed and they're shaking and jittery, and then they make all these gurgling noises as they chug down sip after sip of this thick viscous diarrhea water. Does this seem like the behavior of healthy people to you? To me they seem like they're dependent on a drug to function, otherwise why would they put themselves through this ordeal? And the worst part is when my co-workers or friends or total strangers will just leave their half-drunk cups of coffee sitting around my shared work area. I don't know about anyone else, but there's nothing that makes me feel like vomiting more than having to smell old, stale coffee sitting around getting cold. It's fucking gross, I'm sorry. But coffee drinking compatriots seem to get that others may find their stale-ass old cups of day-old coffee sitting around. Coffee always smells bad to me, but it always smells worse after it's been sitting around for hours and hours. And then there are coffee connoisseurs, who bring elitism and snootiness to this whole thing, making it seem like they're coffee scientists or something. I don't get it.